This is a short video that I'm making to give a real-life example of using Pythagoras. And to do this, I needed some maps and some coordinates. And what I wanted to do was establish how far any given home in the city of Melbourne, where I live, might be from an old rubbish dump, or some people call it a landfill. And I didn't want to make it too hard. I didn't want to have to use GIS and fancy computers. So I thought about using Pythagoras. So I thought I'd share this. It might help someone who wants to establish the distance any given house is from, say, one of their businesses, or it could be, how far you are to a train station. Now, of course, this is in a direct line, so it's not by road. But the first thing you need to know is that the world is divided into latitude and longitude, and you probably know that. But once you get to smaller, more detailed maps, we break it up into grids. And in Australia we use the AMG, Australian Map Grid. Now you might have seen a map like this one before, and then the photo that I'm showing. This is for Grafton, it's just an example. And you can see there's numbers written across the top and numbers down the side. The numbers across the top are called the eastings, and they correspond to the longitude, and the numbers down the side correspond to the latitude. And how you give a grid reference is to firstly read the numbers across the top, and then the numbers are along the side. So it's always in that order. So the numbers on the top are called eastings, and the numbers on the side are called northings. Eastings and northings. So in this particular example, they were giving a six-figure reference for a mountain, Mount Walker. And you can see that it's a little bit past the 54 if you're going from left to right, and it's a little bit past the 33. So you have to approximate about how far is it from the 54 towards the 55. It's about a third of the way, so that's why it's 543. And the same sort of thing with the northing. So it's a bit of an approximation. How far is it past or on the way to the next square? Now, in Melbourne we have the Melways, which is our street directory, and in Brisbane you have Bridgeways, although UBD is probably still the most popular one there, and in Sydney the Sidways. And if you look at the next photo, you'll see that there's a map 108, and it shows a little bit of Narre Warren, and you can see that there's eastings across the top, and there's also northings down the side, but I just don't show it in this little screenshot. And you can see at the top right hand side there's a City of Berwick regional tip. Now that's an old rubbish dump, it's closed, but I'm going to use that as an example. I think this map is from 1988, so obviously some things have changed since then. And if you can see down the left hand side there's Fountain Gate Regional Shopping Centre. That's still there, and that's sort of the two points I'm going to use. And what I'm going to try and do is work out the distance between the 2 points using Pythagoras. In the next photo you'll see that I've drawn a big red square, and that red square roughly corresponds to the red grid lines that are on the Melways page. And you can see at the top there in the legend it says 1 kilometre is basically what the square represents. So between the 352 and the 353, that is a kilometre, and then the same the other way for the other side. So 1 kilometre square there. So obviously between the rubbish dump and Fountain Gate, that closest corner is more than a kilometre. Now if you use Pythagoras, you remember that it's c squared, or the hypotenuse, is the square root of b squared plus c squared. So if you do 1,000 squared plus 1,000 squared and then square root that, you'll find that the hypotenuse is about 14 metres, so 1.5 kilometres almost. So between the rubbish dump and Fountain Gate, well, we know it has to be more than 1.4 kilometres, just based on looking at the grids. But obviously things aren't always in a perfectly straight line, and they're not always going to match the grids, so that's why we need to use the Pythagoras and the AMG coordinates. Oh, there's Pythagoras Theorem, in case you've forgotten it, on the next photo. So there's the 2 points. I'm just picking, for argument's sake, the 2 stars, and I'm just trying to work out the distance. So like I said, you could put your house in, and then if you had a list of all of the McDonald's, or if you had a list of all of the train stations, or if you had a list of all of the whatever. Now this might be handy in the future if we're using drones to deliver pizzas, or we just have homing pigeons, or who can know. It's just a bit of fun. So in the next photo I've worked out the grids. Now what you'll see here is that the easting comes first, and the northing is 7 digits long. So as opposed to the example where things were in 6 grids, numbers, the easting is always going to be 6 figures long, but the northing is 7 figures long. So that's an important thing to remember. And so I've shown you the 2 points and the eastings and northing AMG coordinates there. So then you can write a spreadsheet, and you can put in what is the easting, what is the northing. Now I've got a special list here. It doesn't show it all, but I'll show you in a second. But basically it works out the difference between the easting and the northing, and then uses Pythagoras, and it shows that the distance is just over 2.1 kilometres. Now obviously you need the easting and northing for both points, and so on this example here it doesn't show everything. There is some formulas, so if you want to write your own, that's just to show you, how I wrote the formula for Pythagoras, and to have a bit of rounding off as well. But here is a more extensive list that shows you what you could do. So in blue is just basically the house or the place that you are at, and then over to the right of the green you could make a list of places. Like I said, it could be Domino's, it could be McDonald's, it could be train stations, could be schools, could be whatever you like. And so there I have the eastings and northings of the facilities on the list. And this particular list is about old rubbish dumps and current rubbish dumps, and it's quite a long list. I think it's 260 or something. So in my example here, I'm just trying to work out, if I'm at this place here, which happens to be the corner of Fountain Gate there, how far is that from all of the rubbish dumps on my list? And then the Pythagoras formula is there, and it works out the distance in metres of this particular corner of Fountain Gate compared to all of the landfills on my list. So you can see the one in Hawthorn is about 31 kilometres away. But there's about 200 calculations, or 260 or whatever that it does, and then I've written a formula to basically work out, okay, well, out of the list, which is the closest. and then it tells me in my formulas here that the closest one is 2,449 meters, which happens to be the Narre Warren or the former city of Berwick tip. And it tells me also that on my list of 260 or whatever, it's number 33. So that's how you can work out what is the closest, and you can also write a little formula to show you where it is on your list, so you can get more details. And I've put the formulas in the next slide here, so you can see I'm just using basic Excel formulas. Work out the minimum, I can have a query, and I can have a match. So you can write your own formulas for whatever you want, but I wanted to work out what's closest, and also to have some sort of basic query, and then to match the answer to the list above. And so there's row 33, and you can see it's the landfill that I was talking about before. Now there's a slight difference in the calculation. It just depends on where you pick on the landfill, which corner, or if it's in the middle of the landfill. But anyway, that's a real life example of Pythagoras. So I hope you enjoyed the little video. Have a great day. Bye.